Hello everyone and welcome back to more of the Fruit of Grisaia. We're here on Sachi's route still. And last episode, Sachi's life kind of got turned upside down. Her parents got some pretty big, media coverage, so their orders ramped up significantly. And as such, Sachi was kind of neglected and she got really feeling down about herself. But she found Yuuji in a park and she just kind of latched onto him, and because she wasn't getting the attention that she needed at home, so she kind of used Yuuji to kind of fill in for that. But let's continue on, shall we? See what happens. Yuko didn't just play with me, he gave me the attention I'd been craving. When I did well or tried hard, he'd compliment me right away. When I messed up or tried something risky, he'd give me a few gentle words of concern. Apparently that also has something to do with his big sister's teachings, but whatever the case, Yukun's thoughtful warnings made me almost happy as his praise. Lately, I've started to wonder why I was trying so hard when no one even cared enough to look. But now Yukun was watching me. I had a new reason to do my best. Yeah, be careful, okay? Yeah, you spent all the way around perfectly. That's really amazing. Not that I'm much good at the horizontal bar or anything, but I've never done a forward flip even once. Oh, really? Thanks, Sachin. Huh? Yeah, thanks. When I tried hard at something, Yukun would always praise me. Sometimes, overflowing with happiness, I'd give him a kiss on the cheek in return. And more than once, I drove myself so hard in pursuit of some new achievement that I ended up passing out on the playground. That was how much Yukun's words meant to me. He had stepped into the gap left by my parents' absence, giving me the attention and affection they no longer would. As I grew more and more conscious of what he meant to me, my daily life was quickly transformed. I spent less and less time inside the house. When I got home from school, I just head straight off to the playground. More than anything else, I looked forward to the time that I could spend playing with Yuko. At home, the constant grinding of the machines and the perpetual silence of our music box were still painful, but I found I could endure them now. Not to say that I didn't interact with my parents at all.
Sachi は最近よく公園で遊んでるみたいね。ゆうくんってことお友達になれたから。そう、よかったわね。お母さんもお仕事頑張ってね。
When coincidence brought us together, we were able to hold slightly awkward but reasonably friendly conversations. Even so, I had stopped actively trying to regain their attention. In contrast to the steadily shrinking place my parents held in my heart, Yukun's presence grew larger and larger by the day. I'd wish to hurry up and be tomorrow so I could play with Yukun again. Tomorrow. It didn't take long for those feelings to blossom into a faint but unmistakable love. Like I said before, I guess my sister? Mary, I haven't even thought about that stuff yet. Sachi, are you thinking about it already? Well, you brought it up, so I thought you were probably interested. Yeah, so do you have someone you want to marry? No kidding. Okay, then I... Qualified?
そう、靴飛ばしで私より靴が飛ばせる人。
Shoe kicking.
こうやってブランコに座ったままでどこまで靴を遠くに飛ばせるかっていう勝負なんだけど。
Ah, I get it.
だからね、ちょっとだけ
Huh? Me?
ゆうくんが私より靴を飛ばせるかちょっとだけ試してみるの。
Sounds kind of fun, I guess. Sure, I'll play.
じゃあまずは私からね。
Confident, huh? Well, it does seem like something you'd be good at, Sachi. You're good at a lot of things. Whoa, that went pretty far.
じゃあ次はゆうくんの番だよ。
Yeah, I'm not that confident, but... Yeah! I guess I can't beat you after all, Sachi. I purposely went a little easy on my kick, but I still ended up beating Yuko. Every once in a while, being natural I thought it can be a curse instead of a blessing. I spent that night curled up in my bed, bitterly regretting coming up with that stupid qualification in the first place. There must have been a better way to hide my embarrassment than that. And so, time slipped steadily by, my feelings unspoken. But as my next birthday grew near, my relationship with Yuko started to change in a different way.
それでね、その時はお父さんがお母さんのことを怒らせちゃって。で、ゆうくん？
Oh, sorry, I was just kind of spacing out.
もう、ゆうくんが私の家のこと聞きたいって言うから一生懸命お話ししたのに。
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yuko has always listened intently to my stories. This was the first time I could remember his attention wandering in the middle of a conversation. But my unease was relieved quickly enough. He apologized and listened to the rest of my story. I figured he just must have something on his mind that day. And yet... Sachin, do you think there's a god? You know, one who knows everything and can do anything. If there's a god that's strong watching over us, even if things look really bad, it'll turn out okay in the end, right?
そうだね。私は神様を見たことがないから絶対にいるとは言えないけど。でも、神頼みって言葉もあるくらいだし、神様はとっても強いんじゃないかな。
Yeah, that's gotta be right. God's gotta be really powerful.
多分。
That's what I thought too. Thanks, Sachin. Sometimes he'd talk suddenly about God or other weird stuff. More often he'd sit rocking on a swing, staring off into the distance with a blank look on his face. It was the old familiar expression from the first time I met him, the expression he'd stopped making after we became friends. I had a vague idea that something must have happened at Yukun's home. But I was still just a kid, powerless to offer any real help. When Yukun asked me those questions, clearly searching for reassurance, all I could do was listen, nod, and try to hide my concern. At the same time, the blizzard of work that had buried my parents for so long was finally starting to slow down a bit. The machines weren't clattering quite as late into the night as they used to. Once or twice I went home early to find my parents making small talk with strangers in suits. Like most kids, I did get pretty curious about what the adults were talking about. But when I eavesdropped, all I got was a whole bunch of words I didn't really understand flying back and forth. I got the idea they were talking about the machines in the workshop, but the specifics went right over my head. They're probably buying replacements for the old machines while it's not so busy. But only a few days after I reached the conclusion, our housekeeper told me she'd be leaving the job. Apparently, Mom told her she'd be able to handle the chores by herself again. It was nice that my parents were getting less busy and that Mom would be looking after the house again, but at the time, my mind was so full of anxious thoughts of Yuko that I couldn't manage to feel happy about anything else. Lately, he'd been showing up at the playground a lot less frequently.
ねえねえゆうくん、次は何して遊ぶ？
Sorry, I've got something I gotta do today. I have to head home now.
そっか。じゃあまた明日だね。
I don't think I can come tomorrow. But I'll play with you the day after that, okay? I promise.
わかった。じゃあまた明後日だね。
Yeah, sure. Bye, Sachin. Our meetings slowly grew fewer and further between. The loneliness reminded me of the painful days when my parents had first begun ignoring me in favor of their job. Watching helplessly as Yuko trudged away, my mind churned with sadness and fear. At this rate, Yuko's gonna leave me too. I couldn't let that happen again. I couldn't let another person I love abandon me. This time I had to stop it somehow. The next time I saw Yuko, I decided to use my birthday as an excuse to coax him into spending more time with me.
ね、明日は私の誕生日なんだ。
Oh, really?
うん。だから明日は私と一緒に遊んでくれる？
Actually, I probably won't be able to play with you for a while, Sachin. A bunch of stuff happened at home. I think it's gonna be hard for me to get outside from now on.
そんな、急にどうして？
Turns out, there isn't any such thing as God.
神様？
Yeah. Nobody's gonna protect me anymore. I probably won't be able to play in the park like this again.
そんな。
I'm sorry. I know I should have told you sooner, but Sachin, you always look so forward to playing with me. I didn't want to make you sad.
ゆうくん。
But vanishing suddenly without telling you would be even worse. So today, I came to say goodbye.
じゃあ、ゆうくんとはもう会えないの？
I don't know for sure, but it's definitely possible.
そんな。
And I snuck out of the house today, so I have to get back before Dad notices.
ねえ、明日は私の誕生日なんだよ。
I'm sorry I can't celebrate it with you, Sachin. Okay, I'm gonna go now.
待って、ゆうくん。どうしてもう一緒に遊べないの？私そんなのやだよ。せっかく仲良くなれて、これからもっともっとゆうくんと遊べると思ったのに。それなのに、突然お別れしなきゃいけないなんて。私、明日も待ってるから。ゆうくんが来てくれるまで、絶対、いつもの場所で待ってるから。
As Yukun slowly walked away for the very last time, I yelled at the top of my lungs, more loudly and more desperately than I ever had before in my entire life. But he paused. He never turned back. Yukun's leaving me. Maybe I was right. Maybe everyone I loved abandons me. Paralyzed by my miserable self-pity, I couldn't even chase after him. For a long time after that abrupt farewell, I could only stand stock still at the entrance to the park, wallowing in confusion and pain. And on the morning of my 10th birthday, rubbing my red, swollen eyes as I crawled out of bed, I immediately realized that something was different. For one thing, I couldn't hear the droning of the machines that had been running for the early morning hours for months now. And for another, the smell of fresh miso soup was wafting through the air from the kitchen. Could that be Mom cooking? What about work? Still half asleep and completely nonplussed, I wandered over to the living room where an unexpected sight was waiting for me.
Ohayo, Sachi.
Ohayo.
Mom and Dad were sitting next to each other on the far side of the table, almost as if they'd been waiting for me to wake up. After greeting me, they waited with gentle smiles for my answer. It almost felt like I was reliving a memory from the days before they'd become so busy. The sheer surprise was such that it took me for a moment to find a response.
Ohayo.
どうしたサチ？そんなに目を丸くして。
だって今日は機械の音がしないし、それにお父さんとお母さんがこの時間に家にいるなんて。
そうだな。自分たちのしてきたことを考えれば、サチが驚くのも無理はないか。
今までが今まででしたからね。
The two of them smiled sadly at each other, then turned right back to me.
あのね、サチ。今日はサチの誕生日だから、お仕事はお休みにしたの。
今まで寂しい思いをさせてしまった分の汚名を返上させてもらおうと思ってな。夜になってケーキを食べながら誕生日をお祝いするまで、今日はサチと一緒に遊ぼうと決めた。
The words coming out of their mouths were exactly what I've been longing desperately to hear for so many months. It felt so much like a dream that I very nearly pinched myself. Mom and Dad would be at my side again, like they used to be. Just like when every day was full of happiness, we could play together as a family once more. That's what I wanted all along. Even while I was playing with Yuko, I daydreamed countless times about this very moment. And now it was real. My parents were giving me the gentle, caring words I longed to hear. My heart should have been bursting with joy. And yet, what I felt inside was dark, intense anger, as though a hidden flame, long smoldering in some hidden cranny of my mind, had found the oxygen I needed to burst into a blazing wildfire. No matter how hard I tried, they completely ignored me. Why now, all of a sudden? Do they seriously think taking one day off work is gonna make me forget how sad I've been all this time? Good luck with that. Yuko took their place, but now even he's gone. So why? Why now? Why do they think they can just... Cold, black bitterness spreading through my body, I lifted my head to give my parents their answer.
いいよ。別に遊んでくれなくてもいい。私は一人でも平気だし、お父さんとお母さんが大好きなお仕事を休んでもらってまで一緒にいてもらおうなんて思わない。だからそんなに私の誕生日がお祝いしたいなら二人だけでやればいいんだよ。
The instant those sulky words left my mouth, I bolted out of the living room.
サチ。
待って、サチ。
They called out to me from behind, but I just kept running, out the door, away from our house. Not that I was headed anywhere in particular. Anywhere would be fine, as long as Mom and Dad weren't there. I didn't want to see their faces. I didn't want to hear their voices. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me, my hands clenched tightly into fists, biting my lower lip until the sickening taste of iron filled my mouth. As I fled, the only thing in my mind was anger at my parents. Looking back at it now, it wasn't much more than an irrational outburst of pent-up emotion. But still, rather than feeling happy at the promise to celebrate my birthday together, I was outraged at that my parents were wrapping up all the sadness and pain I'd felt for so long into those bland words about feeling lonely. And in the end, my blind, aimless flight carried me to that familiar playground. I hadn't consciously thought about making my way here. If anything, I was intentionally trying to stay away from the area close to my home. At some point, I definitely passed a hospital much farther away than this place. Even so, some unconscious part of my mind has guided me to this destination. The impact of the previous day's events must have been just that strong. I couldn't simply accept that unbelievably abrupt goodbye. As Yuko left, I'd screamed that I'd be waiting for him today. If I forced a one-sided promise on him, maybe he'd slip out of his house to see me. That selfish, childish hope was still alive inside me. Wiping the sweat away from my forehead, I looked up to the tall clock tower nearby. It was a little past 10 in the morning. Yuko had always come to the playground about 1:30 on the weekends, but I decided I might as well start waiting now. That way, I'd be here even if Yuko came early, and if Mom and Dad showed up, I could always just run away again. Trying to disguise the pain and anxiety growing inside me, I forced myself to believe in this spur-of-the-moment plan. That. Whoops. Aww. The swing is empty. I walked over to the swing set, where the two of us had always sat side by side, and settled into my seat. The day before, I told Yuko I would wait for him in the park. But it wasn't like he promised to come play with me. He hadn't even responded to my words. There was no guarantee Yuko would come to this park. Still, I had absolute faith that he would show up eventually, and I was pretty confident I could wait patiently until then. But as the clock's hour made its way past the 5, and my vigil approached its 8th hour, even that childish confidence began to waver.
やっぱりダメなのかな。ゆうくんとは昨日でお別れしなきゃいけなかったのかな。
The playground that had always felt too small for us suddenly seemed an unbelievably large and empty place. Yuko had told me clearly enough that he couldn't play with me anymore, that even getting outside would be difficult from now on. Could he even make it to the park if he wanted to? Having regained the ability to think rationally with the passage of time, my mind ruthlessly chipped away at my unfounded confidence. And finally, I arrived at the realization that I'd backed myself into a miserable corner. Once that timid thought passed through my mind, it was only a matter of time. The painful emotion I'd been covering up with my anger came bubbling back up to the surface. I was really mean to Mom and Dad again. They were gonna play with me, and I ruined everything. This isn't any different from last year. Even if I go home tonight, my birthday is just gonna be Mom and Dad yelling at me. With each thought, the anxiety and regret swelled up uncontrollably inside me. Before I knew it, fat tears were running down my cheeks.
お父さん。Sachi.
When I squeezed my eyes closed to shut out the world, I saw my parents in my mind's eye, their faces gentle and kind. No matter how lonely they made me, and no matter how much I tried to hate them for it, in the end, I still loved them both very much.
Sachi!
And in the moment I finally understood, I thought I could hear those same familiar voices. Not in my memories, but somewhere nearby.
Sachi!
Sachi!
I raised my head with a jerk, indifferent now to the tears that continued to pour from my eyes. Outside the park, just on the other side of the road, I saw my mom and dad. Even from a distance, I could tell they were covered in sweat, that they'd been desperately searching for me. Ah, Mom and Dad are still Mom and Dad after all. The people I loved most in the whole world. Whoops. I should have known that all along. Why couldn't I have accepted them from the start? No. There was no longer any point even thinking about it. I was wrong. Now all I had to do was apologize. All I had to do was jump into their arms and yell, I'm sorry for being so selfish.
お父さん、お母さん、サチ。
Once the two of them noticed my presence, their expressions instantly melted with relief. I dashed out of the park, overwhelmed with happiness, and I hear a sudden roar of displaced air, like the sound of a fierce wind. In the next instant, the world before me was filled with a colossal jet-black blur. I heard the sound of something colliding with something else, then screeched to a halt nearby. I had reflexively squeezed my eyes shut. When I timidly opened them, I was greeted with the unimaginable. Mom and Dad were stretched out flat on the road's surface, almost as if sleeping face down. Dad didn't even stir. A machine with a dead battery. Mom twitched convulsively again and again, a broken toy. The blood pooling under their bodies crept slowly across the orange-tinted asphalt, dyeing the road a dusky red.
何これ。
Those agonized groans, so totally unlike any other sound I'd ever heard my mother make, filled me with a terror too pure and primal to express in words. My ears had begun to ring, as if to drown out the unpleasant sound of the truck's engine idling nearby. With every moment that passed, my breaths came faster and faster. I couldn't fully grasp what had just happened before my eyes. But instinctively, I understood that it was something so awful as to wipe everything that had come before into complete irrelevance. What do I do? What do I do? Right, I've got to call for help. Times like these, call 911 first. My mind was still capable of thinking about what I should do next. Yet my body was frozen on the spot, as if physically rejecting the incomprehensible situation before me. At the sound of my name, I turned my eyes back to the ground. My mother was dragging herself slowly across the road toward me, desperately trying to communicate something.
お母さん、お母さん、お母さん。
The sight instantly reduced me to a panicked frenzy. All I could do now was shriek her name. Lifting her trembling upper body ever so slightly off the ground, she slowly rose her face. And then...
サチ、どうして。